Christ Kingdom. We are located here in Santa Rosa, California. We hope that wherever you may be, whichever part of the world you'll be viewing these videos, you'll be blessed by God's word. Greetings to our members here, Commandment Christ Kingdom.
Amen.
And though we are little in number, we seek God's wisdom so He may guide us through our studies.
Amen.
On a daily basis. We are continuing with the study of the 7 churches of Revelation 2 and 3. Today we will be studying the 4th church that John was told to write to, the church of Thyatira.
Amen.
The church of Thyatira. So we've already gone through 3 other churches. What was the first church?
Ephesus.
The church of Ephesus. What was known about this church? What did
They
Jesus...
forgot their first love.
They have lost their first love. They were a clean church, but Christ told them that they have lost their first love. Their love for God and their love for their fellow human, fellow man. So that brings us back to the commandment. Those 2 commands, love your man, love your God, and love your fellow man. Out of these hang all the prophets and the commandments. The 2 stones at the back behind me. The second church was
Smyrna.
Smyrna or Smyrna. What did Jesus say about this church?
They say that they are Jews, whereas they are not.
Well, the first church to Ephesus, he warned them against some group of people called the Nicolaitans. What were the Nicolaitans known for? They were Christians. They've accepted the Christian Christ teaching, but they do not believe in all the commandments.
All the commandments.
2 particular commandments was drawn. Jesus told the church of Ephesus about. Which one? It was quoted by that early writer, Irenaeus. 2 commandments that they were not keeping. The first one was fornication. There was a lot of fornication within the church, adultery. And the second one was idolatry. They were worshipping other gods. The second church of Smyrna, they were good. This church, Christ did not find any fault in it. He said they went through tribulation, he knows their works, but Christ warned them against another group of people, the Jews. And he said that they are Jews, but they claim to be Jews, but are not. They are of the synagogue of Satan. That's something we don't want this church to be labeled as, to be of the synagogue of Satan. Keeping the commandments, doing everything to please God, but they are against the character of God, because they have not accepted who? Jesus Christ. The Jews did not accept Christ. Everywhere the disciples went to teach about Jesus Christ and His work on earth, the Jews came after and tried to lure the people back into serving God alone and not Christ. So they kept the commandments, but they did not accept Christ. So that's the other extreme that God, Jesus
Jesus himself warned the church of Smyrna.
Mm-hmm. Jesus himself warned the church of Smyrna. Mm-hmm. Jesus himself warned the church of Smyrna. 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 Jesus himself He also redefined blasphemy. What was blasphemy? If you are a
Human being.
human being and you
claim that you are
claim to be God. Why did they blame Jesus for that?
Because he forgave the sins of
He
all.
was forgiving sins. Only God forgave sins, and the Jews knew that. And when Jesus told that man, go, your sins are forgiven, they said, it's causing blasphemy. But he called the Jews blasphemy because they were claiming to be God's people, but they were not accepting him into himself. Likewise for today. There's so many ways we reject Christ. We reject God, and especially through his commandments. Most of us reject the commandment. Just because they don't want to keep one of the commandments, they reject the whole thing. That's blasphemy, according to the definition that Jesus labeled the Jews of. And then the church of Pergamos, which we studied last week. What came out in this church? The doctrine of
Balaam.
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 What did Balaam do in the Old Testament? He was the one who, a prophet of God, who advised their the enemies of the Israelites, on what to do. Two things he advised them to do. One is to
Eat things that are
feed them with food that
to idols.
have been sacrificed to
Idols.
idols. Secondly, bring them your women, give them your women, so these women will corrupt their faith.
Fornication.
Same thing. The Nicolaitans fell in those two. The Jews fell in those two. Likewise for the Balaamites. Idolatry and adultery. So we've said right from the beginning, when Jesus introduced himself in chapter 1, he said, I am the Alpha and the Omega. The concept of time came in there. So when we were looking at these churches, we classed them, put them in time space. And Ephesus represented the time from Jesus' death in 31 AD in the first 100 years. The church was clean. All the teachings of Jesus Christ was kept within the church, represented by Ephesus. But remember, Ephesus said, your first love for Christ has been lost. Likewise for Smyrna, it represented the next 300 or 200 years, 100 AD to 313 AD. What happened during that time? Persecution started. Remember, this church, Smyrna, went through tribulation. They were the clean church. Jesus did not have anything to say about them, anything bad. But they went through tribulation. And that was during that time, because now they were empowered by the Romans, and they were the Jews influenced the Roman who were in power politically then, and they were persecuting the Christians all over the place. Thirdly, last week, Pergamos represented another 200 years from 313 AD. What happened in 313 AD? Someone was converted to Christianity. The Emperor Constantine. And what did he do? He brought in pagan festivals into the Christianity. And that represented that time. 538, what happened in 538? That date should be memorized by us. 538 is the year the power, political power, was given to the Church of Rome, to the Bishop of Rome, 538. And then began the Dark Ages, which is recorded in history. The Dark Ages. Do you remember what years the Dark Ages It's in the Bible. For how long? 1,260 days. That was the beginning. 538, and when did it end? 1,260 years later? 1798. You add 1,260 to 538, it comes to 1798. What happened in 1798? What happened?
Great disappointment?
No, before that. Just before that. Napoleon was ruling in France. What did he do? He sent his general. Remember his name, the name of the general? General Berthier. He went up from France
To arrest the
up
Pope
to Rome
and bring him down.
and brought the reigning Pope then down to Paris, and he died in captivity. That was the end of the Dark Ages, because Rome was ruling all over Europe at that time. It began in 538 when he was giving up power. So he held both the religious power and the
political power.
political power. This church today we are going to study, THYATIRA, began in this new era, 538 AD to what time? Let's read what Christ told John to write to this church. Can we read it together? 2, 3.
And unto the angel of the church of Thyatira,
Right.
This
This
is
is the Son of God,
who
who
has
his eyes like unto a fire, and his feet are like the fine brass. 19.
I
I
know
know
thy
thy
works,
works,
charity,
and service, and faith, and thy patience, and thy works, and the last is more than the first. 20. Notwithstanding,
I
I have a few things against thee,
because thou sufferest that woman
Jezebel,
which
calleth
calleth
herself
herself
a
a prophetess,
to teach
teach and to
my
seduce my servants
servants
to
to
commit
commit
fornication
fornication
and to
and...
eat things sacrificed unto idols.
Don't you see the same thing that was told about those other three churches? Okay, let's see what the THYATIRA. So, first of all, Christ, here, he introduced himself as the Son of God. Right unto the church in Thyatira. This thing says the Son of God. So he introduced himself as the Son of God. Also, it says that he has eyes like unto a
flame of fire.
flame of fire. It's concerning about vision. He sees everything. And his feet are like
Fine brass.
fine brass. That's how he described himself in that to this church in Thyatira. Commendation that he gave this church again comes up works. Remember today we're saying most Christianity is preached that your works does not matter to God. It means nothing. Christ says, I recognize your works.
Amen.
Today they only preach, just have faith in Christ. Just have faith. You don't have to do anything. Christ will do everything for you. Christ recognized the works of this fourth church. And also all those three other churches. He was telling them, I know your works. Also, Christ recognized this church was full of love. The love that was absent in which church? The first church, Ephesus. This church had love. They had love one another for one another. They also loved God. There was a lot of service that they provided to outsiders and within the church itself. And they also had faith. And in particular, Christ says about his church, thy works and the last to be more than the first. When this church started off, they worked hard. They worked hard for Christ. But he said, today after that time period, what happened to this church? It has even worked more. Your first works was good, but today is even better about this church in THYATIRA. So they were doing everything they were good. However, Christ complimented the Christians in THYATIRA for their works, their love, faith, and their service, and patient endurance. He noted, in fact, that their good works grew better as time progressed. And thy works, and the last to be more than the first. That's what it meant by that verse. However, the rebuke that went to this church, in spite of their numerous charities and commendable virtues, don't we see that in our church? We do lots of things. And this is what Jesus is saying. Well, you guys have been all good. The THYATIRA Christians needed more help compared to the first three churches. Whereas the Ephesians had rejected the Nicolaitans, remember the Ephesians, the first church? They said, Christ told them, you guys did not accept the teachings of the Nicolaitans. They are bad people. Like this church here, Christ recognized that. The Pergamins had accepted Balaamite. The church as a whole in THYATIRA actually tolerated Jezebel, a prophetess who taught the church members to practice immorality and to eat food sacrificed to man. So their weakness was not about the Nicolaitans, which Christ warned the first church about. Their weakness was not about the Balaamites, like the Pergamos, church in Pergamos. But this church, fully tolerated the teachings of Jezebel. And you know the story of Jezebel in the Old Testament?
Yeah.
Does anyone remember?
He's the wife
The
of
wife of King Ahab, the king of Israel. Remember that time Israel and Judah had separated into two separate nations. The northern kingdom was Israel and the southern kingdom was Judah. And at this time, the time of Jezebel, King Ahab was the king of Israel. And the wife Jezebel, she came from the other outside of Israel. And she brought with her all her pagan worships and teachings. Revelation 2:24 says, but unto you I say, and unto the rest in THYATIRA, and as many have not this doctrine, and which have not known the depth of Satan, as they speak, I will put upon you none other burdens. For you, those of you left over who have not accepted these doctrines, the doctrine of Jezebel, but that which ye have already, hold fast till I come. So, even though the whole church, it says in the verse before, have tolerated Jezebel, all the teachings have been tolerated by the churches. So they have accepted all these teachings. But the good thing is, some of them, Christ noticed that some of them, a little section of the members of the church in THYATIRA have not. It says here, unto you I say, unto the rest in THYATIRA, as many as have not this doctrine, and which have not known the depth of Satan, because they have not accepted the doctrine of Jezebel, they know not the depth of Satan, as they speak. And I will put upon you none of the other burden. Because you have not accepted the doctrine of Jezebel, I will protect you from other things that can come up because of those doctrines. Hold on, hold fast till I come. So he's telling them, you know, you're going through hardship. Right there in your church, the others have accepted the doctrine of Jezebel. But hold on till I come.
Amen.
story of Elijah Elijah was the prophet that was sent into Israel to talk to King Ahab and the wife. In the Old Testament, even the prophet Elijah was unaware that 7,000 faithful believers were standing firm. He thought he was the only one doing so. So, like this church in Thyatira, Elijah during his time, because of Jezebel and his influence all over Israel, he thought he was the only one standing. He thought he was the only faithful person who was still faithful to God. But unknown to him, there are 7,000 other faithful people which God has preserved. Where were these people? They were hiding. They were hiding from the public in order to protect their cleanliness, their righteousness. They wanted to practice what they've been practicing all along, to be godly, to follow God's commandment, to keep all these commandments. Because the spirit of Jezebel have introduced in doctrines that have caused them to break most of these commandments. So they removed themselves, these 7,000, and went and hid out in the caves and into the jungle. Likewise, this happened during the dark ages we've just been talking about, from 538 AD to 1798. People ran away because of persecution under the Roman power. They ran away into the hills, into the mountains, to hide, to protect their faith, so that they are not forced to break the commandments. So Elijah wasn't aware of that. He thought he was the only one. But God is constantly observing our conduct. His eyes like unto a flame of fire. We just read that. He described himself, his eyes is like a flame of fire. Because even though these people are hiding out in caves, hiding out in the mountains, God knows, because God sees through everything. He knows what these people are going through. So unlike Elijah, God knew that there were other people, another 7,000 who were faithful. In the church of Thyatira, though most of them have accepted Jezebelism, that few group, God's eyes was on them. He recognized their faithfulness. As your works deserve. Verse 23 of Revelation chapter 2, let's read together. 2, 3. And I will kill the children with death, and all the churches shall know that I am He which searches the reins and hearts. And I will give every one of you according to your works. So your reward will be according to your works. Where does faith alone come in here? They preach on your faith. Just have faith in Christ. Christ himself is talking here. He says, you will be rewarded according to your works. No wonder there's a book in heaven which record all of your works. Everything you do is recorded up in heaven, whether you do good or you do bad. And that's where the judgment, during the judgment, that book is open. And your reward will be according to what's recorded in there. According to your works. The church of Thyatira has slowly moved the works away and only said, have faith in God. Remember, one of the things they were commanded for was faith, their faith. They were strong in their faith. But works? Why kill the children? This is some harsh word says here. Who did it say here will kill the children?
God. And I will kill my children with death.
Yeah, Christ himself, he says, and I will kill her children with death. If they continue in Jezebelism. And all the churches shall know that I am he which searches the reins and hearts. Question is, why kill the children?
Because they are fruit of sin, the unregistered.
So are they sinful?
No.
Is it because of their sin, the children's
Because of their
sin?
parents.
The parents. So who is being punished here? See, these are some of the doctrines which we will bring to today.
The children in the church.
Who's being punished?
Jezebel,
The children.
church.
Why kill the
No, read it properly. And I will kill
with death.
whose children?
Their children.
Their children. So who's being punished?
The
Church.
The
Oh, the
children of
parents.
the church.
The parents.
Because the children are
The
killed.
parents who have accepted Jezebelism.
Jezebel's teaching.
The children will suffer.
The children will suffer.
But is it because they are sinful? No.
No, because of the parents' sin.
In one way, they have been saved by Christ. They are removed because if they are not removed, what will happen? They will just follow in their parents' footsteps. Today, we are using the verse that in Psalm 51:8. I was in iniquity. What was the word? I was. Yeah. THYATIRA, David, when he was crying unto God. And he said, we are interpreting it today. Christianity is interpreting it today that we are born in sin. No one is born in sin. When do you sin? We read that verse this morning. When do you sin? When you transgress the law, this law. When you transgress this law, that's when you sin. So does a baby sin? No, that baby doesn't even know what the law is. That's the teaching that has come up in this church in THYATIRA, that God is warning those people about. Keep on to your faith until I come. Or the other thing is, all the churches will know, that means all of the times is included. Right from the beginning till the end. You will be judged according to your works. It's bringing in the idea of a judgment. Today we say, just have faith, you'll be in heaven. It removes the judgment part. Let's read this verse. John 5:23. 2, 3.
That
All men should honor the Son, even as they honor the Father. He that honoreth not the Son, honoreth not the Father, which hath sent him. Okay, verse 24. 2, 3. Verily,
Verily I say unto you,
he
he that
that
heareth my word and believeth on him that sent
sent
me
me hath
hath everlasting life,
and
and
shall
shall not
come
come
into
into
condemnation,
condemnation, but is passed from death unto life.
we take it as it is. Faith only is right. It just said, you just hear my word and believe on him that sent me, and you will have everlasting life. These are some of the verses that are brought out today to justify the doctrine of faith alone. No works. We've read in all the 4 churches we've studied that Christ is recognizing the people's works. I know thy works. So the different eras that are represented by those churches, we once again, Ephesus, the first 100 years after Christ. Smyrna, the 200 years after the 100 year AD, and that's when persecution started within the church. Pergamos, from Constantine's time, when he started bringing the pagan festivals in the Christian church, up to 538 AD, when the power, the political power, was given to the Church of Rome, to the Bishop of Rome. So he had both the power, political and religious. When he had that, he had the power to do anything. So he persecuted persecuted the whole of Europe, where she had the power. And then come Thyatira. From that time, 1,000 years later, 1560 AD. Does that year bring something down in our studies? 1500, in the 1500s, what happened in the early 1500s? Started the Reformation. Who was involved?
Martin Luther.
Martin Luther, 1517 AD. He went and nailed those theses on the door of the Wittenberg Church in Germany. 1517, around about this time, when the church, it was total darkness from here onto that time. Then the light started coming back through the works of the reformers. Martin Luther, John Wycliffe, John Wesley, and all these people who gave up their life to bring the light back, which the Roman Church had downtrodden on them all these years. So it's about 1,000 years that's represented by this church in Thyatira. Let's take Jezebel. She was brought in through marriage. Think about her and then think about our churches of today. Marriage. Marriage. There's one marriage that's happening to the churches of today through one system, one movement led by the Roman Catholic Church of today, and that's the ecumenical movement. Study that. If you hear it in the TV, the radio, open your ears. Read it in the newspaper, open your eyes. Because this is one of the things that this church, Jezebel, brought in. She was brought in through marriage. Churches are getting married. They are going back to the mother church. They're writing up agreements between their church and the Church of Rome. That's happening today, right now.
Amen.
It influenced leadership. Jezebel, when she was the wife of King Ahab, everything was run by her. Ahab was a weak king. He listened to this wife of his, and she ruled. She ruled the country of Israel and led them to this total darkness. That's exactly what is happening again today. Today there are gay rights and all these rights are coming out because of these human rights, because of this ecumenical movement. We're trying to recognize, we're trying to get everybody in. It killed all opposition. If you want to stay true to this doctrine, the true doctrine of God from the Bible, make sure you get yourself ready to be killed. Jezebel made sure that all opposition to her doctrines were killed. We will force all believers to flee and hide. We've been talking about moving away from the cities into the country. It's not a joke. It's not a joke. We, as Christians, should do like these people did. They ran away. They wanted to keep their faithful stand with God. So they cannot keep it here because the law is too much. They have to move out. Period of total darkness. Because of that, there was a period of total darkness. Exactly what took place during the period 538 to 1560 AD, when Rome was in total control.
Amen.
What happened in the early 1500s? We talked about that. Martin Luther and the other reformers came up and started the Reformation. The reward. Revelation 26 to 28. And he that overcometh and keepeth my works, and keepeth my works unto the end, to him will I give power over the nation. And he shall rule them with a rod of iron, as the vessel of a potter shall be broken to star. We heard about morning star to this morning, didn't we?
Amen. Yes.
Who or what is the morning star?
Lord Jesus.
Revelation 22:16. I, Jesus, have sent mine angel to testify unto you